students, welcome to 17704 Comparative Communication Studies for ASEAN. Now we're gonna have a look on Module 2, Lesson 2. I'm Unalom Janrumani Kun, and so today I'm gonna focus on two issues that we are going to discuss. The first one is an overview of communication in Europe, and the second one is European communication situations and comparative studies. And this discussion, you can have a look in study guide as well. From these two issues, I'm going to break up to be 3 points for my teaching today. The first one is overview of communication in Europe. The second one, European communication situations. And the third one is example of communication studies. So you can learn from the research at the last of this teaching. So now you can learn from the example and know how to do the research in the future. Now let's have a look at the first media in Europe, which is newspapers. We can say that newspaper is the oldest media in Europe. From the statistic in 2006, there were 2,900 newspapers titles have been published in the European market, with the circulation around 126 million copies. So you can see that it was actually quite big market for newspaper media. Who is the largest one? The largest one is German. German is the largest market in Europe for newspaper, with over 21 million copies per day. And the second one, the second largest market was Britain, with around 18 million copies per day. So this graphic shows the number of the circulation of the largest one and the second largest one, German and UK. And for the second media that I like to focus on is European cinema. I would like to say that European cinema perhaps is the most important media for Europe. Why? Let's have a look at the quotation from Williams. Williams say, for Europe, film is more than a commercial enterprise and more than an art form. It is a matter of cultural expression. More so, perhaps, with than any other medium of mass communication, film in Europe is intimately tied up with matters of national and cultural identity. So from this quotation, students who like to study on Europe, you should understand that European cinema is not only art or media. It is related to national and cultural identity. This is a very important point. And anyway, in 1980s, European cinema was in crisis because of the American film came to Europe, and it gained popularity. And however, in 1990s, European cinema has returned because of the many states in many countries in Europe. They have policies which supported the European cinema. And also they have co-production between private and state funding. And also the private companies, they have funding for the artists, film artists, which all of these, which were important factors supported European cinema in 1990s and until now. That one is the first overview, the first one, or the first point, that overview of European media. Now we're gonna move to communication situations in Europe. What is the tendency? What is the crisis? What is the problem for Europe now? So for the situations, I like to focus on 4 points. Let's have a look. There are pluralism, freedom of expression, freedom of information, and media ownership. For this, all of these, they have relationship, they have interrelationship. So now let's have a look the definition. What is pluralism? From Council of Europe document, which you can see in your study guide as well, they said pluralism of the media means a media structure that is comprised of competing media outlets which are independent from each other, a central owner or other influence. So pluralism is not only one company who occupied all media, but each media, they are all independent from each other. This is the point. And moreover, what are characteristics of pluralism? So the first one is diversify of separate on political views, cultural outlooks, or even regional interests. And the second one is it can communicate to all over society, to all corners of society, which you know, around European, they have different contexts, different religions, or you know, different ethnic. So pluralism, it means that they can communicate to all corners of society. And the second point is they can convey a great variety of information and opinion. And the last one is they can design information from different sources. It means that pluralism, they don't rely on only 1 or 2 sources, but they have different sources. These are characteristics of pluralism, which are quite important point of Europe now. And what is relationship between media pluralism and freedom of speech that I just mentioned? From Council of Europe, they said media pluralism is a necessary condition for freedom of speech and contributes to the development of informed societies where different voices can be heard. It means that media pluralism is a must. It's a must condition for society that they want to create freedom of speech. If you don't have pluralism, you don't have freedom of speech. This is a relationship. But the very important, the most important now is the major threat to media freedom today is the monopoly tendency we see among traditional media across Europe. So now the crisis, the situation in Europe is they tend to have monopoly situation of media among traditional media. This is the situation that we need to concern about the study. And let's have a look at the freedom of expression. What does it mean? Freedom of expression is one of the essential foundations, but freedom of expression can only be exercised in a free and pluralistic media environment, including through independent media governance. So this is the relationship between expression, freedom, and pluralistic. Again, all relationship between freedom of expression, freedom of information, and media pluralism, they have basic on one regulation that we call a basic human rights, which set out in 1948 by the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in Article 19. In Article 19, they said, everyone has the right to freedom of opinion and expression. The right includes freedom to hold opinions without interference and to seek, receive, and impart information and ideas through any media and regardless of frontiers. So this is the regulation that there is set up a long time ago, and it becomes a basic for the freedom of expression in Europe. So I like to summarize in this point that pluralism is a quality of democratic societies as well as an individual human right that can be enforced through juridical, constitutional, and international mechanisms. So pluralism media is now is quite European people or European Union quite concerned about this, because it is related to democracy and human right. And another one, or the last point of situation in European media is media ownership. Media ownership, what is relationship between ownership and pluralism? The point is, if you can't check who are ownership of any media, you don't have media pluralism as well, because it means that that if you can't check media ownership in your society, there is no transparency. That said, that at Derbyshire and Harrison, they said there is currently insufficient transparency of media ownership in most European countries. This is quite, is quite important point of European situation now. There is not enough transparency of media ownership when they want to check who are the owner of this media. From the research of Derbyshire and Harrison, they said in 9 of the 20 countries in Europe, it is not possible for the public to find out who the actual owners of the media are. What does it mean? It means that half of the European, they can't check who are the owners of the media. So now we learn 4 points of situation: media pluralism, freedom of expression, freedom of information, and media ownership. So now let's have a look. The last one, the last point of teaching today is the example of the comparative communication studies, which I like to raise one research which is very, very important for communication studies. This one we call the book from Hollin and Mancini in 2000 2004, we call it Comparing Media Systems, 3 Models of Media and Politics. In their research, in this study, they divide up the 3 models of media of European societies. They are the liberal model, the democratic corporatist model, the polarized pluralist model. And in 2008, they add one more model, which is called the Eastern European post-communist media model. So each model, they have their own attribute. For example, the liberal, they cover across the Britain, Ireland, and North America. For democratic corporatist model, it covers Northern continental Europe. Polarized pluralist model, it covers Mediterranean countries of Southern Europe. And the last one that they just add in 2008 is the Eastern European post-communist media model. I raised this as example because the conceptual framework which are very interesting. Actually, they have 2 frameworks. The first one is media systems. Media system that it composed of 4 dimensions. The first one is structure of media markets. The second one is political parallelism. The third one is professionalization of journalism. And the last one is the role of the state. So I raised the framework this to show you how they divide up, how they design the framework. This is the first framework. And the second framework we call political systems. So now you can have, you can see that the first one is media, and now the second one is politics. So they compare and they have, they find relationship between media and politics. In this framework, they also have another 5, which are the role of state, type of democracy, degree of regional legal authority, type of pluralism. So I like to raise these observations from this example, because this study is very important for you to study, and if you observe their research design, you can see the very important point. The first one is its analysis framework is defined clearly by dividing objects of investigation to be 2 categories. As I just mentioned, one media, another one is political system. And each category was pinned down by crucial different dimensions. The second observation is, though many different macro units, if you you can look back at the first module in comparative study. What is comparative studies? You can see that macro units is the basic one that you're gonna compare on your research. So now in this research, macro units are European countries. They were selected to be compared in the same analysis framework, specific dimensions of media system and political systems. And it was employed for all different macro units. This is called equivalence of objects of investigation. So this is, you need to understand that all object of investigation that you use, you have to use the same category of media system and the same category of political system, which are the objects of investigation, although the macro units totally different. And the third one, the researchers selected many macro units, 18 European countries that were difficult for designing research. to compare and conceptualize. But they have solution. One of the significant solutions was that all 18 macro units were categorized within the same theoretical framework by examining historical, political, and social development context, and finally creating the classification of 4 models. So this is confirmed that we need to study context of macro units carefully. At the end, I would like to emphasize again for your key readings that you need to study. The first one is from Council of Europe, which is called Media Pluralism and Human Rights. And the second one is Comparing Media Systems in Europe, Identifying Comparable Country Level Dimensions of Media Systems. These are very important key readings for you. And today, thank you very much and good luck for everyone. Thank you.